Are they serious?
Yeah.
Like,
unfortunately, they are serious.
You know, you can't even make this stuff up. It's so stupid nowadays. There's, first of all, anybody who listens, I'm not going to get political, but anybody who listens to that stupidity should be embarrassed.
On CNN, Charles Barkley went in on this.
Have you ever wondered why or how she blew up like this? Well, around 4 years ago, the Pentagon's Psychological Operations Unit floated turning Taylor Swift into an asset during a NATO meeting. So is Swift a front for a covert political agenda? Primetime obviously has no evidence. If we did, we'd share it.
It's a coordinated marketing campaign by Democrats to leverage celebrities to excite their base into coming out and voting.
Why alienate your fans, the Swifties? You know, they come across from every political ideology. Why put yourself in one area? Don't get involved. Don't get involved in politics. We don't want to see you there.
Let's not forget that Taylor Swift has made a career off of writing songs about picking the wrong man, so I don't think we should take advice from her now.
That being the utter brainlessness from conservatives.
There's no conspiracy who gonna win games.
The Super Bowl, yeah.
And listen, I love Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of his, and I love Taylor Swift. But the notion that they got this vast conspiracy and whoever they want her to, you know, endorse somebody for president, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna vote for any candidate just because some celebrity said it. But the notion that they got this 4 years ago, he said 4 years ago, the Pentagon came up with this conspiracy. You get so sick.
It is maddening to me.
It's maddening.
It's not maddening that it's happening. It's maddening that people believe it.
I tweeted about it, and this article was written, and it had millions of people opining on it. New Jersey Trump supporter floats strange Chiefs Super Bowl conspiracy theory, and Taylor Swift Biden shocker. And of course, they're talking about your very own Mike Crispy. So I will tell you this. I think at this point, you're crazy with as many people are talking about it, from Vivek Ramaswamy to Paige Van Sant to Jesse Waters to everybody to Tucker Carlson. I think at this point, you're the crazy one if you don't believe the two are connected. Go get another booster shot then, if you believe that.
And this is part of the problem. Former candidates who would be holding public office spew it, and right-wing media picks up on it. To give an idea of how far this has gone, Ingrid Jacks of USA Today wrote, Donald Trump, the increasingly likely Republican presidential nominee, has signaled he's jealous of the superstar singer and her big following, and has posited that he's more popular than Swift, according to Rolling Stone. He also claimed he has more committed fans. Media Matters tracked even more attacks, writing, for months, right-wing media have targeted Taylor Swift and her relationship with Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce with unhinged attacks. Right-wing figures have made misogynistic comments over Swift's appearance at football games and attacked Travis Kelce for his appearance in an advertisement for the COVID-19 vaccine, which of course would be making New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers very proud. More from the outlet. On X, formerly known as Twitter, failed 2024 GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy implied that the upcoming Super Bowl will be rigged for Kelce's Chiefs, setting up Taylor Swift to publicly endorse Joe Biden. He speculated that the Super Bowl would have a major presidential endorsement coming from an artificially culturally propped up couple this fall. Turning Point USA influencer Benny Johnson speculated that the fame of both Swift and Kelce has been concocted and that the Super Bowl will be rigged for the Chiefs. He went on to say that after this planned win, Swift and Kelce will reach like crazy levels of absolute fame, and then they take all that fame that's been given to them by the rotted corporate press media entertainment industry that explicitly backs Dems, and then they use that in order to try and save Joe Biden. That is just insane. Let's go over a few things here. Benny Johnson worked for Breitbart, The Blaze, now Turning Point USA, had a stint, which tells you everything, had a stint with BuzzFeed News where he was fired for plagiarism, kind of bad as a writer. Prior to all that though, he went to the University of Iowa. This is a man who said in the last week to 10 days that Travis Kelce at tight end is a glorified lineman Now, if anyone knows a lick about football, you would know that tight ends are not glorified linemen. As a matter of fact, I could make the argument that the very school this schmuck went to will prove they are not glorified linemen. If anybody follows football, you know the names I'm about to list. Dallas Clark, C.J. Fedorovich, George Kittle, T.J. Hawkinson, Sam Laporta, Noah Fant. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing some. These are not only some of them being top tight ends in the league, but also longevity in the league. So in short, Benny, tell me you know about football without telling me you know about football. Lastly, anti-Muslim bigot and Trump ally Laura Loomer posted the Democrats' Taylor Swift election interference psyop is happening in the open. She would also say it's not a coincidence that current and former Biden admin officials are propping up Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. They're going to use Taylor Swift as the poster child for their pro-abortion GOTV campaign. Charles Barkley would also say, by the way, I'm going to look right in the camera. If you're screaming at Taylor Swift saying she ruined football, you're just a loser. You're just a loser or a Jack Blank. You can be A or B. Longtime sportscaster Bob Costas, one of the goats of media, would add, all of a sudden, because they don't like something about Taylor Swift, either they don't like the Chiefs or they've inferred Taylor Swift might be a Trumper, then they're annoyed by Taylor Swift. I can guarantee you all this news on Fox News would not be happening if she was wearing a MAGA hat. They would love it. Which, by the way, I stated last week, Bob, if you watch the show, I appreciate you. But I do agree with myself and Bob that, Mr. Costas, excuse me, that if Taylor Swift were to be having MAGA leanings or be like the most pro-Marsha Blackburn artist ever, can you imagine what Fox News would be doing? Imagine what Newsmax would be doing. See how they bend over backwards for the Ted Nugents of the world and then multiply that by 1,000 if it were Taylor Swift.
For those of you who are devastated, time will heal.
New text messages show the pressure former NFL quarterback Brett Favre was putting on then Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant. Favre requested money for an indoor football practice facility.
Things will get better. It shall pass.
NFL Hall of Famer Brett Favre is facing questions tonight of whether he knowingly took $5 million of state welfare money to build a new volleyball facility for his daughter's team 5 years ago at her university and his alma mater.
So I encourage you to stay positive, keep the faith, and believe that better days are ahead.
Brett Favre asked the head of a nonprofit handling welfare funds, quote, if you were to pay me, is there any way that the media could find out where it came from and how much?
Me and Deanna have been blessed with wonderful material things because of what I've done. But we tried to stay extremely grounded.
Suit was brought by the Mississippi Department of Human Services in May in an attempt to recover millions in misspent money. Favre also seemingly pushed to build an indoor practice facility to lure recruits like Deion Sanders' son Shador, and for funding for a pharmaceutical company he is an investor in.
When it comes to Brett Favre.
So how should the leagues support and promote an anti-racism position without becoming political and alienating fans? Thank you.
A confidant of the former president.
Favre's also an outspoken conservative, an ally of former President Donald Trump. There they are on the golf course together. Thumbs up. Now, Favre is currently embroiled in a controversy involving the use of federal welfare funds set aside for the state of Mississippi's most vulnerable residents, which were reportedly diverted to Favre and others.
He has followed the textbook of Trump and Vince McMahon, sue for defamation. Thus, he's gone after Shannon Sharpe.
I had some good news today. The United States District Court of Southern District of Mississippi dismissed Brett Favre's lawsuit, defamation lawsuit against me today. The court found that my speech was First Amendment protected.
Yes, sir.
Only for that case to be dismissed. Then he also went after Pat McAfee.
But it does seem as if the people that were giving the money were potentially doing something a little bit shady, because I guess there was other deals happening with cousins of said person that was making deal
Brother-in-law.
and brother-in-law.
Yep.
And after watching McMillions, it feels as if I'm a little bit more woke to these types of situations on how the kickbacks work and stuff like that. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
And sued him as well.
As I confirmed in my court papers, and I repeat here, my statements expressed in comedic style were based solely on public information and allegations. I am pleased to report that based solely on me again clarifying these points now, with no settlement paid, Brett is withdrawing his suit against me.
Only for it to be the same result.
I guarantee you the jury in Mississippi will make certain he learns how to apologize. It's going to cost Pat McAfee millions of dollars. And if it bankrupts him, then he will have learned his lesson about you don't try to promote yourself by inappropriately and improperly attacking somebody else. He's gonna learn a lesson the hard way.
Wow.
Meaning this age quite well.
Last year, middle of last year, my office, which includes 135 CPAs, investigators, and attorneys, we got a tip in that suggested that the director of the Department of Human Services was misdirecting money and potentially involved in an embezzlement scheme.
Mississippi State Auditor Shad White would not be immune either.
We've seen a ton of welfare money that's intended for the poorest folks here in the state of Mississippi flowing to people who just simply did not need it.
There was a period, clearly, where powerful people were benefiting from TANF funds here in the state of Mississippi. The first time that I knew that Brett Favre had some sort of intersection with our investigation was when an investigator walked into my office and he said, "I need you to watch this video."
State Auditor Shad White led the investigation.
It was a video of Mr. Favre promoting Prevacus's product, which was a nasal spray that was designed to prevent concussions. And my first question was, what does this have to do with welfare money? And the investigator's answer was exactly, what does it have to do with welfare money?
Favre brought a suit against him as well. The difference in White's approach in comparison to the McAfees and the Sharps is this. Via Front Office Sports, and it is quite a revelation. White filed a countersuit in Hinds County Circuit Court against Brett Favre, seeking nearly $729,000, which includes $437,000 in principal and $292,790 in unpaid interest related to the $1.1 million in welfare funds Favre received. That money was paid to Favre through a scheme that led its plotters to plead guilty to fraud charges in exchange for his performing speeches, signing autographs, and recording a public service announcement in a press release. And he also met the media, but in the press release, let's focus on this. White would say the following: Mississippi's Constitution and laws require that the state auditor act to protect the taxpayers and fully collect all public funds, which Mr. Favre received from Nancy New and John Davis. Mr. Favre's meritless defamation suit provides the opportunity for the recovery of the principal and interest, which Mr. Favre failed to repay. Best work that we have seen done are from two sources. Mississippi Today, specifically Anna Wolf, who has covered this story and broke this story, and Ashton Pittman of the Mississippi Free Press. Now, from the Mississippi Free Press, it would read this. White said in 2020 that Favre had improperly received $1.1 million in speaking fees from a nonprofit organization that spent welfare with approval from the Mississippi Department of Human Services. The money from the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or TANF program, was to go toward a volleyball arena at the University of Southern Miss, where Brett also claims as his alma mater, and where his daughter Bray Lee played. Favre agreed to lead fundraising efforts for the facility at the school where his daughter started playing. More from Emily Wagstaff. Favre repaid $500,000 to the state in May 2020 and $600,000 in October 2021, but the new court filing said he still owes $729,790 because interest caused growth in the original amount he owed. It boggles the mind that Mr. Favre could imagine he is entitled to the equivalent of an interest-free loan of $1.1 million in taxpayer money, especially money intended for the benefit of the poor, White would say in his statement. Now, I understand, as we have been covering this for what feels like a plethora of time, tons of time, there is yet another wrinkle. And I know it's hard to imagine how could another branch possibly grow from this tree, yet it has. And this is via Front Office Sports' AJ Perez. It is another part of this story that is very important to pay attention to because it involves lawyers and it involves politics, and how that intersection is quite difficult for some to navigate, or rather easy. So here is this from Perez. An outside law firm is handling the MDHS lawsuit, not the Mississippi Attorney General's office, which is led by Lynn Fitch. Fitch has been criticized for taking such a hands-off approach to the largest, I reiterate, largest public corruption scandal in the state's history. Beyond the AG's office not working the case, civil case, Fitch's lawyers have not filed a single criminal count against any of those involved, forcing county and federal authorities to fill the void. After Fitch became aware last month about an upcoming book by Shad White on the scandal, which is believed to paint Fitch's office in a negative light, she pulled AG lawyers from defending White's defamation case. White's case is now being defended by lawyers in his office. Now that lawyers from the Office of the State Auditor are trying this case, we are going to ensure Mr. Favre is held accountable for his acts and omissions, White would say. This is interesting because you have Auditor White, who we have to believe through his handling has tried to bring some semblance of justice to this case. And he is potentially going to expose Lynn Fitch in an upcoming book. And thus she said, well, screw you. I'm not going to help you in the slightest, and I'm not going to help your case. Eye-opening stuff. And I cannot wait to learn more on these revelations. Auditor White would then go on the offensive. The public already knew, Favre knew, he was receiving public money. But the new texts make it clear Favre knew he was receiving grant money intended to benefit people in state-funded shelters, schools, homes, etc. In other words, the poor, White said in a tweet. In a Twitter thread dated in March of 2023, the following passage would read, Favre knew that grant funds could not be used for brick-and-mortar construction. He'd continue. The new texts also provide another example of Favre asking to keep everything quiet while talking about getting paid in grant money. Favre asked Nancy New, can we keep this confidential? The point is that there are multiple exchanges where Favre stressed the need for secrecy. National News has talked about how Favre said in one text that he didn't want the media to find out. This wasn't a one-off, transient thought, though. He said it repeatedly. Finally, the texts show Favre was aware there were concerns about the legality of spending this money on a volleyball court, and he knew there was a need to get around those rules. He'd been told the funds could not be spent on brick-and-mortar facilities like a volleyball court, and he asked New if washing grant money through Favre Enterprises would solve the brick-and-mortar issue. She said yes. Bear in mind, this is the guy suing me for defamation, for having the temerity to tell taxpayers the truth. That Favre knew he was being paid in public funds, and he knows this was a sham. White has said that from 2016 to 2019, the Mississippi Department of Human Services misspent more than $77 million in welfare money. Prosecutors have said the department gave money to nonprofit organizations that spent it on projects such as a $5 million volleyball facility at the University of Southern Miss, a project for which Favre agreed to raise money. Everything Auditor White has said about this case is true and is backed by years of audit work by the pros at the Office of the State Auditor, the auditor would say. It's mind-boggling that Mr. Favre wants to have a trial about that question. Mr. Favre has called Auditor White and his team liars, despite repaying some of the money our office demanded from him. He's also claimed the auditors are liars despite clear documentary evidence showing he benefited from misspent funds. Instead of paying New York litigators to try this case, he'd be better off fully repaying the amount of welfare funds he owes the state. If there's any story that we missed or any story that you would like to submit, get at me. I will throw up the graphic here. Get at me on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. Send me a message, send me a DM. And again, there are only so many hours in a day. There could be stuff that we missed or even on the local level that you want us to cover. Get at us, submit it to us. We'll take a look. Appreciate you watching. Have a good day. In Roseville, California, a high school wrestling match was marred by racism in the stands.
Cut it out with the racist shit. You guys are weirdos. You guys have been yelling this whole time.
Monkey chants rained down during Omarion Overby's match, which would go to quadruple overtime. Since the incident occurred, Mercedes Overby, Omarion's mother, has been speaking to the media on the matter.
He sent a text in our group text, me and my daughter, and he was like, "Mom, take a look at these videos. I think I just found out, I think I've been, racism against me." And I watched the videos over and over and over. As a mom, it was hurtful. It was disappointing. And I was outraged. Like, it's 2024. I know, racism still exists everywhere. But my son, who is a varsity football player, a varsity wrestler, an honor roll student, completely out the way, doesn't bother anybody. Like, he's one of the sweetest, most humble kid that anybody would probably ever come across and meet. And I just kept saying to myself, why him?
Overby, seen here, is a junior in high school with a 3.8 GPA. He would learn of these videos because a teammate's relative captured them from the stands. Per Kathy Anderson and Joe Davidson of the Sacramento Bee, 2 fans were overheard racially abusing Overby. District officials informed Omarion. One is a Roseville high school student. The wrestler would say they used the N-word and they made monkey gestures.
The last 3 days, my son, who eats me out of $300 worth of groceries a week, has been eating top ramen noodles. Normally, he eats steak, rice, and chicken every night because he meals preps. He normally eats a whole sleeve of rice cakes a day. My son has not been eating. My son has not been playing his video game. So as a mother, I'm hurting. My son is hurting. And I don't know how to make it better, but to just keep speaking.
Thus, Mercedes has shared her demands for the school. A third-party investigation with the findings being made public to the community, anti-racist education and training, and an approach of a zero-tolerance policy on racism. In addition, per CBS 13, the family wants the students expelled. Mercedes, when learning of what else was said, amongst other derogatory name-calling, was the bigoted hecklers labeling Omarion autistic. He's not, she said. But what does autism look like? Omarion would later tell ABC 10 he was shocked and disgusted at what transpired. He would learn about it the following day and was left speechless. If I heard those words in the match, I don't know what I would have done, he said. I probably would have broken out in a rage, to be honest, hearing those disgusting words. Roseville Joint Union High School District Executive Director of Human Resources, Rob Hasty's email would read, "So you are aware, the district has taken action with regard to the inappropriate action of the students involved. In addition, our principal reached out and apologized personally to the family involved. She also reached out to the Intercom principal to apologize to him and the whole school." Ashley Sarin, Roseville High's president, would release a statement as well, which read as follows. "While we don't yet know all the circumstances from the event, we want to be very clear. Racism and discrimination in any form will never be tolerated or accepted on our campus. Our student body and staff, including includes community members from all backgrounds, races, and religions, which is one of many aspects that make our campus exceptional. In addition, she wrote, as we investigate what transpired that evening, we wish to express a sincere apology for any and all offensive comments. Our commitment is to educate ourselves, our students, and the community, emphasizing that racism has no place at our school, in our homes, at our workplace, or anywhere else. Simply put, we must do better, and we will. Researchers at the University of California spoke on the impact that this could have. Sociology professor Robert Ferris said, there is acute humiliation and trauma experienced by the target of slurs, and that's likely to be especially intense when it occurs in the context of a public event like this, where there are a lot of witnesses. Then, of course, now everything is recorded on the phone, so the number of witnesses to this is potentially fairly close to infinite.